What's up, everyone? It's time for Party on Broad. The trio is back together. The schedules match this week. Pretty pumped. I'm Freddie Burns with Rob, Philly Madness, and Chris Dives. We got such an exciting show tonight. We got Combine Talk, and we got the draft expert here with us, Chris Dives. Rob has a rant. It's gonna be intense. I feel it coming. I can see it on his face there. A Rob rant, and then of course we got to talk about the Sixers, who are on fire, baby, fire. Everyone's doubting them, but they keep proving teams and people wrong. So let's jump into the Combine first. Dives, you've been doing draft stuff all week. Let's just talk about the Combine, the excitement of it, and covering it.
It was exhausting. Thursday to Sunday. That's all I did. I watched, combine after combine after combine, and I hung out with my wife and kid at some point in between there. But the funniest part of the combine was actually me getting on the show. I don't know if you saw that. I tweeted at Rich Eisen, and he actually put my tweet on the show. That was nuts.
I saw your tweet. I didn't know you got on the show.
Yeah, that was freaking nuts, man. It's on my Twitter if you are inclined, but I'm excited it's over. So now we can get down to the nitty gritty and actually break down final position rankings, big boards, mock drafts, everything we learned so far, because I have been studying nonstop through the Senior Bowl and now the Combine. So it's now finally time to kind of put the bow and the ribbon on the package.
Well, tonight we're going to do like a quick summary, and I guess we'll start with, we'll each go around. I didn't watch too much Combine. I talked to Rob. I don't think he did a ton either, not as much as you, Dives. So we'll chime in as we can, but we'll lean on you. But who was your most impressive performance?
Do I go first?
Yes.
All right. Well, what's up, Quentin? What's going on, man? It's got to be Anthony Richardson. I mean, that has to be the winner of the Combine. He was the story of the Combine. He set a modern Combine record for quarterbacks with a 40.5-inch vertical jump, the best since 2003. He tied Matt Jones also since 2003 with his broad jump, 4.44 40-yard dash, a maximum athleticism score of 99 per next-gen stats. I don't think the discussion is any longer whether or not this guy is going to be a first-round pick. The discussion is now whether or not he's worthy of being the number one pick. And the question is, can Richardson climbed to the top of this draft? I think he's going to interview well, but you look at this guy, he's only completed 53.8% of his passes, man. Last year, Florida was 6-6. You look at the last 10 drafts, only 3 quarterbacks who completed fewer than 55% of their passes have been selected. That's Trey Lance, Christian Hackenberg, and Trey Sorley. So you kind of wonder where Anthony Richardson could land because he's such a project. You want him to go to a team that, he can kind of learn and take that time to develop at a slow pace. A team like the Lions, a team like the Seahawks, playing behind a Jared Goff, playing behind a Geno Smith. Because if he gets thrown to a team like a situation where he's going to get instant minutes, as a rookie, that's bad news bears for Anthony Richardson, because when it comes to inside the pocket, he's got a long way to go. But my goodness, the athleticism, the athletic profile, the physical profile is off the charts. I don't want to be the team that passes on Anthony Richardson.
It's funny. I brought him up, I guess, a Thursday ago when I did a Thursday show solo as one of the guys I was interested in seeing, and you couldn't hit it more. And you predicted this a while ago how good he was. Yeah. I believe
people were making fun of me all the time. I was like, Anthony Richardson could be a number one pick. I'm just saying. And he, like Will Levis, he was so inconsistent in 2022. There were times where he looked great, like the next Cam Newton. There were times when he looked terrible, absolutely god awful. His footwork, his mechanics. He's such a work in progress, but here we are, man. It's a weak draft. That's the biggest takeaway. It's a very weak draft, especially at the top. So he's paying dividends for that.
Rob, anyone that impressed you at the Combine?
I mean, like I said, I didn't watch it too much. I did watch a little bit when it came to the defensive backs. I don't know why and this is one of the things I'm just frustrated about, right? The whole world is ready to just blind trust everything Howie Roseman's about to do because he had a great year. If anyone wants to remember back what happened after the Super Bowl team, it didn't go so well. And I already do not like the reports that are coming out of this team. I don't like any. I don't like letting every single guy on defense go. I understand most of them had to go, but you had two key cogs of that defense in Gardner Johnson and Javon Hargrave, and it sounds like they're both gone. I don't know. And I'd rather spend the money on the younger player and Gardner Johnson than on Hargrave, to be honest. They're not going to do either. But I ended up watching all the defensive backs because I have this stupid belief that they'll actually draft a playmaker at the top end of the first round. I know that they're not going to do it. I'm preparing my mind for a guard or a tackle or an offensive lineman, which we have Jeff Stoutland. You could get a guy off the scrap heap and he could become the best lineman ever. Don't know why, but Dives, just play with my mind here. All right. I need a little excitement because I am just frustrated already with the Eagles off season and it hasn't started yet. If the Eagles are picking at 10, those top three guys, you keep hearing the names Gonzalez, Witherspoon, Porter. What did you see from these three guys? And which guy would you think is the better fit in Philadelphia?
My 1A and 1B right now is Devin Witherspoon and Christian Gonzalez. Christian Gonzalez tore up the combine. He was one of my biggest winners at the defensive back position. I think it was a Saturday. But he great size, 6'1", smooth athlete, a guy that can just fluid hips, great closing speed. When you get to Devin Witherspoon, very similar. He's like a Darius Slay. He's a very physical defensive back. His read and reactability is the best of the class. I mean, you watch highlights of this guy, his A to B speed. I mean, he blows people up behind the line of scrimmage, blows people up, extremely fast, great in coverage. Devin Witherspoon is my current number one because I think that's what the Eagles are going to want to do moving forward, play a little more press. And that's probably where I would lean. But I don't think they could go wrong. They're still not my favorites for the Eagles at the top of this draft, but they would be a great consolation prize. I love Devin Witherspoon. I actually called on another podcast who would the Eagles select over a month ago. It was Devin Witherspoon. And here we are.
See, and I hope you're right there. Like, here's my thing, right? The Eagles, finally stepped out of the box a couple years ago. We got Devontae Smith, a playmaker from a big school, all this stuff, and we've seen the fruits of that. When was the last time they drafted that defensive, not fat guy? Like, just go back in the secondary and just once you have an absolute need at the position. You just compared Witherspoon to Darius Slay. How great would it be for him to learn under Darius Slay for a year in this system and do things like you said? Those damn wide receiver screens are like the new thing in the league. Having a guy like Witherspoon who could blow people up, I don't know, man. I'm already defeated, and we haven't even got to.
Oh, come on, Rob. Come on, man.
I agree with you on your premise with the cornerback and drafting. My I guess most impressive in the limited I watched was my own. I'm a Georgia Bulldog fan for college football. Darnell Washington, that one-hand catch he made piqued my eyes, and I knew he was a good tight end. But at Georgia, he was kind of not the number one guy. You know what I mean? The way they ran their offense, he just wasn't shown or featured as much. But he has the skill set. And as you're showing here, the elite size, length, and speed, I thought he had an awesome combine. And I think he moved his way. Probably, he might be the number one tight end now. Does he pass Meyer now?
It's got to be up there. I mean, look at those measurables, man. 6'7". We already knew he could thrive in the run game. He's a great run blocker. We already knew that, man. But, you look at that 40-yard dash, 4.64. You look at the fourth fastest time by a tight end weighing 260-plus pounds at the combine since 2003. He had an 83-plus inch wingspan, the largest wingspan ever for a tight end. He had a 10-foot, 2-inch broad jump, the second longest of any tight end since 2003. They were actually talking about comparing Darnell Washington to Rob Gronkowski. And what's even insane about this is the dude is wasn't even the best tight end on his team. Brock Bowers is going to be a top 5 pick, a top 5 tight end in next year's draft. That's how freaking loaded Georgia is, man. It's wild.
Yeah,
But Darnell
Washington
Washington as a red zone threat, as I think he's got just so much upside, so much untapped potential. If he goes to the right team that can really exploit the middle area of the football field, watch out. Darnell Washington was actually right on my list as well.
Who is a guy that improved their draft stock tremendously? That was kind of probably not really maybe in the first round. Now they are, or someone along those lines, Sibes.
This one's really easy, and I'm going to just continue the Georgia train here. And I thought this guy blew it out of the water.
Stop. He's not doing crap in the pros.
Stetson freaking Bennett had one of the most impressive days for any prospect, considering I had this guy as an undrafted free agent, and he went toe-to-toe with Will Levis and was right there. Arm strength, accuracy, 40, physical measurables. It was really impressive. Talk about a guy that like I had no expectations for. His hands are bigger than Bryce Young. He had his arm strength. He clocked in with his arm strength as good as Will Levis. Like there were just multiple measurables that Stetson Bennett came in and blew everything out of the water. I was really impressed with Stetson from a standpoint of I had nothing to expect from this guy, and now I think he's a legit day 3 pick.
Listen, hey, Dodge, one of the stories that came out of the combine was actually a lot of stuff that happened off the field with Jalen Carter. Where do you see? I mean, how far is he going to tumble? Is somebody going to take the chance? What do you think the situation is? Because the guy we know is an unbelievable talent, but with this hanging over his head, like how bad do you see this fall being?
The problem is it's a weak draft at the top. I don't think it falls very much. I think he's still going to be a top 5 guy. He's one of the sure things in this draft, like Will Anderson, like Peter Skoronski, like a Bryce Young. You know what you're going to get from those guys. And I think it would be foolish of any team to pass on that because it's a crapshoot. I mean, I'm really high on like guys like Myles Murphy and Tyree Wilson. But after that, there's a huge cliff jump. And that's where everyone kind of plateaus in this draft from like right around the Eagles selection and on. It's pretty even when it comes to tiers and upside and, red flags. So for me, if a team is going to look at that and drop him down a notch, I hope they do. And I hope he's there for the Eagles because I will gladly select him at number 10.
You talk about Carter, also Witherspoon not working out, potentially falling. Who'd had a good rating going into this, and now the combine now is probably going to make them fall?
It goes back to previous shows because I was on shows where I joined like Mark Henry Jr. on Fox Sports The Gambler, and we were like previewing the NFL draft class last summer and talking about this wide receiver class that was supposed to be like arguably one of the best of all time. Like this was supposed to be a very solid wide receiver class. Jordan Addison, a guy out of USC who had a pretty good year in 2022, really tested poorly at the combine. He only had a 34-inch vertical, 50th percentile. You look at another guy, Kayshon Boutte out of LSU, had just immense amount of potential, had a pretty mediocre 2022 season, and then really tested poorly at the combine. So I look at this wide receiver class. It's not a good one. In general, I think the wide receiver class is pretty poor. I have Jackson Smith and Jigba as my number 1. I have Zay Flowers as my number 2. Then you get to Quentin Johnston. After that, I mean, it's a bunch of wide receiver 3s, bunch of wide receiver 4s, a lot of slot guys, which will help the Eagles. If there was a loser of this, maybe it's Quez Watkins, because there are fits for the Eagles in that day 2, in that day 3 range. But overall, I think the wide receiver class in general is just lacking.
Jordan, go ahead, Rob.
Well, no, I mean, the wide receivers are a good question mark. I wanted to touch on the running backs because obviously I think the Eagles are going to be in the market for a running back. With Saquon Barkley getting tagged, it just means Miles Sanders, his room out there in free agency just got a little bit brighter. So I would not expect to see Miles Sanders back. I know you're in love with the kid from UCLA. I've seen you. I've heard you talk about it. I know, like that's your guy for Philadelphia. So you could talk about him a little bit. But then, is there anybody else? Because I refuse to believe any of the hype that the Philadelphia Eagles and Howie Roseman would go near a running back in the first round.
Agreed.
All right. So here's my take on the running backs. I would not draft Bijan Robinson or Jahmyr Gibbs in the first round. That's just me. When you talk about a quarterback like Jalen Hurts and everything he means for the Eagles rushing attack, when you talk about their elite offensive line and that chemistry between Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts, like, you don't need a elite tier running back to thrive in this system. That's why Zach Charbonnet, I think, is a dream fit for Philadelphia. You could probably get him on day 2, and what you want out of a Eagles running back, he offers everything. He's a great pass protector. He's a great downhill runner. He's more of a north-south guy, but he does a lot of things that I think the Eagles would love. Again, short yardage back, excellent ball security. He has just 2 fumbles in 702 attempts. This guy's like the anti-Miles Sanders. He's not going to dance behind the line of scrimmage. He takes what the defense gives him. He's going to move the pile, and he's a great receiver out of the backfield. Like the concept, the theory of a Jalen Hurts, Zach Charbonnet RPO system with Dallas Goedert is unstoppable. It's legit unstoppable. That you talk about an unbelievable, efficient third down, third and short team. It just makes them better and better. Zach Charbonnet, like, he's one of my guys in this draft, and if they don't select him round 2, round 3, I'm gonna be heartbroken, man. I've been on the Charbonnet train for a while, man. It's been a while.
I already can see the Chris Berman line. Need some short yardage? Get a nice cold glass of Charbonnet. Touchdown, Eagles. I love it. I'm in. I'm on the Charbonnet train.
Yeah, 100%.
I guess we'll close this up with, are there any people, I guess, there's 2 I want to talk about, actually. And one guy's a cornerback that's, I think, more at a 3rd or 4th round tier. DJ Turner II. He ran the fastest 40 time. I brought him up in the mock draft 2 shows ago. He just doesn't have the size, but he has everything else from the instincts. I don't even write it down. I forget. I think he's 5'8", like 180, 5'9", maybe 180. Is there any value to this guy, or is the size just going to be an issue?
This guy came out of nowhere for me. I mean, I've covered probably at least 10, 15 cornerbacks in this draft. I did not expect that out of DJ Turner. He's going to be a 26-year-old rookie. So there is that. So I still see this guy as a day 3 guy. I don't see any of his combine affecting arguably the best group in the draft, which is the cornerback position. So he's still kind of a day 3 guy, and he's not even close to my top 10 rankings.
Got it. Well, let's move it on. Oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to, how about the safety position? Because obviously we just talked about it, right? Doesn't Gardner Johnson put out the sack? That video was like the most depressing thing of my day, was seeing that video pop up on Twitter today. Don't get me started. I know we're all supposed to blind faith Howie Roseman. I've never been that guy. I'm not going to start being that guy now. I think it's a mistake to let Gardner Johnson go. But is there a safety in one of those day 2, day 3s that you think can make an impact for the Philadelphia Eagles this year?
The biggest guy to know, and it's a guy that absolutely crushed the Senior Bowl. He absolutely crushed the Combine, and his name is Sidney Brown. Sidney Brown, it doesn't have great size, but he's got really good build. He kind of is like a Swiss Army knife. He's not great at anything, but just really solid. That would be a really nice addition. I mean, obviously Brian Branch is the cream of the crop here. He's a first-round player, but I don't see any path where Howie's going to invest a first-round pick in a safety. But there's other guys in this draft that are really intriguing. Can I present this idea to you? Because it's been a controversial topic of discussion for the last month or two, and that's Keely Ringo. Many question whether or not Keely Ringo is actually a safety at the next level. Tested out incredibly well at the Combine.
I can see it. I can see it watching them because he doesn't strike me as a shutdown corner. Not to cut you off, but watching Georgia, and I was like, "How's this guy going in the corner as a corner in the top?" I think you're onto something.
Yeah, and then there's some other guys. There's a JL Skinner, 6'3" safety. There's another guy named Antonio Johnson, I think, from Texas A&M, 6'3", 6'4". Safety positions not deep, but there are guys at the top that are super intriguing.
Okay,
like day 2 guys.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to have plenty more draft talk as the weeks go on. I agree with you on a lot of the Howie points you made there, Rob, but we'll save that for another show. I never fully jumped on the train either. I didn't crush him. Great year, but we still need to see a good draft out of this guy. I'm not just crowning him from last year.
Listen, I'm not saying that the Eagles have to go back to the Super Bowl next year. All I'm saying is I don't want to see this. We go to the Super Bowl and then, we just need a year to retool. No. Let's build something that actually is consistent. That's all I'm saying. But we'll save that for another show.
Let me just throw this out there as well. I mean, I raved last year at this time about Kyle Hamilton. Would have been kind of nice to have a Kyle Hamilton defend Travis Kelce. I'm just saying, rather than another first-round pick that couldn't get on the football field.
Very true. Very true.
Well,
let's move it on. And I think this rant is Sixers related. So it's going to be a nice segue into this. I think we should add that to the show, actually. Rob's rant every week. And
I'll
just
do it every
have
week.
him do it. We need to get a logo and we need to be like, wah, 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 Rob's rants. You know what I mean? Something like that.
I can guarantee you I could find something weekly to just rant about. And
I've known you for 2 weeks, and I'm pretty sure you can do that.
Yeah, 95% of the time, it probably will be the fan base in the city because as much as I love being a part of it, I want to murder what I like to call the loud minority because I do want to believe that it is a minority that does this nonsense that just pisses me off constantly. So let's just get to the Sixers. And listen, they have been a very frustrating team this year because it's like you get these weeks where you're like, holy shit, man, they're on fire, and then they suck, and then they go 4-1 on a road trip where they got to come back against Milwaukee. Last night, to me, was one of the more impressive wins they've had this year. When you think of the back-to-back, you played a track meet game in Indiana the night before. You sit James Harden, you're thinking, all right, they're giving this game away. And they have maybe one of their best defensive efforts of the season. I mean, it was just a phenomenal game. But here's what I want to say.
What's the rant, Rob?
Over the last 3 months, this team has the second best record in the entire NBA. But if you went on Twitter, you would think that they need to blow the damn team up, fire Doc Rivers, and start over. And I really have to ask this question. Are people actually fans of the team or fans of their narrative? Because I feel like everyone just wants to be right, that it almost takes them against rooting for the team, for the coach, for whatever. I fought this battle for a while, but I feel like when the Sixers win, it's in spite of Doc Rivers. When they lose, Doc sucks. And there's no in between. That's what I feel like I see all the time. And it's mind-blowing to me. No, I am not saying that Doc doesn't have flaws. Doc has a lot of flaws. Doc absolutely has a lot of flaws. There's no doubt about it. But it's like people just they hype on the narrative. 3 games into Matisse Thybulle not being here, now people want to tell me how he's a friggin' all-star and what the hell were we thinking? He's playing on a bad team. He's playing on a team in Portland that outside of Dame Lillard hasn't known what the hell they were doing for 10 years. No wonder he looks good. Robert Covington was once beloved in this city. He sucks. He's a bad basketball player. I will live and die by that. He was a player on a terrible team who did a couple of good things, and people thought he was the next 3-and-D guy. He couldn't shoot. How can you be 3-and-D if you can't shoot? Matisse Thybulle doesn't score. But then meanwhile, they want to love on him. But then a guy like P.J. Tucker is the worst player to ever play in the NBA. Well, you had the wrong idea of who P.J. Tucker was if you thought he was going to come in here and hit 5 threes a game, hit 2 threes a game. P.J. Tucker in that Boston game, I know they lost, but outside of Joel Embiid's gargantuan performance offensively, P.J. Tucker was the next best player on the court. It doesn't show up in the stats. Sometimes in the game of basketball, grit does not show up in the stats. It's the one game that people can affect the game without being in a statistic, in an analytics report. It's the one game. And P.J. Tucker is getting into what I call playoff PJ mode. He is going to be the guy that you can go put on one of these wings and he could piss them off because what did Jason Tatum do in that game? Now he hits the shot at the end, right? Jason Tatum had a pretty bad game for most of it, didn't he? I mean, he had a bad game. It's because and I want people to watch the Sixers. I get it. I'm with all of you. I'm tired of the second round exit. I'm tired of it. I'm flat out tired of it. But sometimes we got to just look at things. For a while, the bench was horrific. Horrific. I mean, George Niang couldn't hit a jump. He looked like PJ Tucker shooting for a while. Now he's come out of it. So my point is, why can't we just, like, when things are going well, don't take the Twitter to talk about the negatives. I got a guy in a group chat who does this. Right? We have a big group chat. So the Sixers go 4-1 on this road trip. It's a great road trip. Nothing but positivity, if you ask me, comes out of this. He texts this morning. I'm really disappointed in DeAnthony Melton and him and PJ Tucker. I mean, it's a disgrace. I mean, we can't just run pick and rolls all playoff. What are you doing?
Dude. And to piggyback off it, I'm not going to do my own rant, but I couldn't agree more. Yeah. Saturday night, I went on a little rant. Like, this team is awesome and winning games. And I know they have their flaws, and I know Doc's lineups are so head scratching, and some of the things he does is so ridiculous. But they are winning games. There's something to be said about the locker room and the egos and Harden and Embiid becoming a post player under Doc, yada, yada, yada. But just I agree. It's like, and I had to get through this, I think, a little bit with Carson Wentz, I'll say, about being right. I didn't think I was doing that. Maybe I wanted him to be right. I wanted him to succeed because I loved him so much, but you get kind of caught in it a little bit when Hurts first came on. Not that I was rooting for Hurts to lose, but I was like, I wanted Wentz to win the job back, and then quickly checked myself and was like, what are you doing? Whoa. What are you doing? Yeah. The offense looks electric right now. It's picked up, and you get over that. So I agree with you. Like, fire Doc. Yes, you can have that stance, and you can feel that way. Yes. But when they win the game, give them some credit. Give them some credit for the wins, and I'll segue that right into you, Dibes, and then we'll get into the actual Sixers. Yeah. You have been one to do that. You have actually got me on the Fire Doc train listening to you in your post games this year early on. But not that I would tweet it all day long. I just see that side a little more. But you this year have given credit when credit's due and jumped on him when needed. So shout out to you for that. You did group text us you were out on the Sixers, though.
You did. And then they won that game.
And I immediately told you will be back in.
An hour and a half.
Magically, your phone was broke for the next 2 days or something.
I might have been drinking. Oh, hey. I might have been drinking. Just throwing that out there. A little bit. I might have went to bed at halftime, and I woke up, and it was like the greatest Sixers comeback of the year.
So it's been a good run. There's three main points we'll talk about real quickly tonight because we're getting at the 30-minute mark here. Let's talk about McDaniels. Now he started one game. He scored 20 points. He's played well in the play, but he's played bad too. He can't dribble a lick. He really can't dribble. And there's been rumblings that he should be a starter. I'll go with you, Dibes, first. Should McDaniels be a starter based on a couple okay to good games?
Absolutely. Not like if there was any time to do it, now is the time. This is the time. It's regular season. Experiment. You look at Tobias Harris. The last time Tobias Harris came off the bench was the 2016-2017 season. Outside of that, since then, he's been a starter every single game. I know it's a long time ago, but all of Tobias's traditional and advanced numbers were better off the bench than they were as a starter that year. And you look at McDaniels, like I think he's showing that he can win on multiple levels and in various roles for the Sixers. I think his athleticism has really shined for them, especially in that middle area of the field or middle area of the floor. Whereas like Thibault he wasn't a rim runner. Doc, let me just say to Rob, I will argue that Matisse Thybulle wasn't put in place to succeed. That's an entirely different conversation. But in Doc's offense, McDaniels has shown he can, roll to the basket. He can cut to the basket. So there's definite upside there. And he's definitely got kind of a more of a wide range of skill set on the offensive end. I mean, you look at his ability on the glass. I mean, it's been really, really noticeable. Jalen McDaniels, plus 2.7 in his 11 games with the Sixers and a 5.0 net rating. That net rating is currently the fourth best on the team during that stretch. So he's making a big impact. I like his fit with James Harden, most importantly. So as much as I am a Matisse Thybulle guy, I love Thybulle. McDaniels is exactly what they need, that athleticism, that length, and hopefully that pays dividends in the playoffs.
Rob, you going to tell this guy why he's wrong? Or
No,
am I going to have to do it?
To be honest with you, I'm all about experimenting right now. These next 16, 17 games, experiment with starting lineups. I'll kind of just give another side to it. I'm a big fan of an athletic guy coming off the bench and providing a spark of athleticism. And I'm also, in the NBA specifically, I'm not really worried about the first 5 guys that start. I'm worried about who's on the floor in crunch time. I'm worried about who's making those plays. So if you got to go to Jalen McDaniels specifically, he's got the long arms, he's got the defensive athleticism. As Dive said, the offense, if he's playing late in games, that's fine. Look, I like the kid. The one thing, he's not the best shooter, but I've seen him knock down a few threes already, which was a nice bonus. I just love that they are now going to the bench. And when you go to the bench, you have 2 athletic dudes. Look, here's the deal with Paul Reed. I don't think Paul Reed is the best basketball player. I don't. I think he's a freak athlete, and I think he can do certain things that could provide a little spark, a few minutes here, a few minutes there. But Paul Reed is the quintessential, hey, only play him, because if he's on the floor too much, then he makes 3 plays in a row where you're just like.
All right. I have a stat for you, because this was like the most fun deep dive I did today. I do a lot of deep dives when I'm like bored, and here we are. But here we go, Rob. I just put this out. Here's a tweet I just put out. When Paul Reed this season gets 15 or more minutes, that has happened 10 times this year, 10 games. He's got a 17.4 net rating and a plus 72. Since February 10th, when Paul Reed's minutes really incrementally increased, he's a plus 49 on the court, man. I think the story, we're going to get into this in a bit, but like the story of the 2023 Sixers yet again remains on those Embiid off the floor minutes. And I think Paul Reed, if he's given an appropriate kind of, I don't know what the word, like leash to kind of like grow in that role, I think it has true upside for the Sixers playoff chances.
Well, and listen, I like Paul. All right. I've met the kid. I've talked with him. He's a nice dude. And I think that there is certainly potential there. And I'm fine. I like that. You know what? They tried Harold for a while. It didn't work out. They've now shifted to Paul Reed as the backup center, and he's kind of solidifying that right now. I just get nervous sometimes because he'll do certain things. And ready for this name I'm going to drop, that give me Samuel Dalembert nightmares.
Oh, my God. No.
Like where he goaltends a ball and then turns around and looks at you like, no, dude, you can't do that. You can't touch the ball when it's on the rim. Don't do it. But I am all about that. The one thing that I've learned this season more than any watching the Sixers is the regular season. When you become a team that's top 3, top 4 in the conference, the regular season should be an audition. Everything should be an audition. And we have to stop with, oh, they suck. Look, they lost that game. Oh, they blew that lead. All I heard for the last 3 years, how they've blown leads. Nobody wants to talk about how they're coming back this year. That's one of the big differences I've noticed. How many games have they come back this year?
Oh, if there's one reason to be super optimistic about the Sixers is their clutch minutes. Whatever Doc's doing, the Sixers are doing a great job in clutch situations, and they have been winning and winning and winning.
Well, I love what they've done with Joel Embiid with the foul line, putting him at the foul line like that. And Joel talked about it, and they said he said, Doc came to him and said, where do you want to be? What's the area that you want to be? And that foul line, he is so dominant from there. And it's much better than, I know it's only a few feet out, but I love him there even way more than I love him at the 3-point line. And I like him there more than I like him posting up because he clogs everything up when he does that because he gets double teamed. And let's face it, one of Joel's weaknesses is when the double team comes, he either tries to dribble out of it or so I love him at the foul line. I think that's been a great thing for them. And their pick and roll game with him and Harden has been superb. And I know
the pick and pop has been awesome to piggyback off what you're saying at the foul line.
They're going to bog down on that in the playoffs. Yeah, but there's so many different options that the Sixers have off of those two guys doing that. And if all you need is a guy that can hit a three. Tyrese Maxey has seemed to come out of his funk, right? He looks super confident now. So listen, there's some type of different feeling about this team. I'm not saying that they're getting out of the second round because I know better than to make that statement, but there's something about the way that this team has constructed itself and their mentality that I feel a little more confident. And I don't really – the next 17 games are going to go the way the next 17 games are going to go. It is what it is. But I have a confidence that this team can maybe make a little bit of noise finally in a playoff series.
Well, I'll say it for you. They have fight, and that's what the main difference is, and they will get out of the second round this year. No doubt about it. And I think they're definitely going to the NBA Finals. I really think they have enough fight, and they're going to be a very tough team to beat in a 7-game series. The Jalen McDaniels starter, just to bring it back to that, and my opinion on that, I don't think he should be a starter. I like him offensive glass, but I just, in the playoffs as a starter, I think he will get ripped apart when he gets the ball in his hand. He cannot dribble a lick, and he can't shoot. Therefore, I would just have him come off the bench. The Paul Reed victory tour, I agree with you, Dobbs. Like, we're on it. I was like Rob, like more like head scratcher. But the more this guy gets minutes and the more he gets a chance to play, he's starting to work out those kinks. But before we wrap up Sixers talk, we got to talk about the real, in my opinion, big game changer. Embiid's always the MVP, but James Harden is the difference in this basketball team. And people didn't want to pay him last year. I actually didn't mind the way he played last year as a point guard. But he's taken it to an entirely new level, the Harden of old as a scorer, if you will. And I don't even think he needs to do that, just his playmaking abilities to open up the floor. But he's been hustling. He's been diving for balls. Last night, it was out of bounds. Or no, the Pacers, not last night. He dove out of bounds and pegged it off a guy's leg. This is a different James Harden. I hated the Harden on the Rockets because of that lazy stuff. I don't see that this year at all. Actually, I see heart and fight, and it's reflecting on the entire roster.
Yeah, I mean, what he's doing is just an offensive masterpiece. That's what he's putting together. He's arguably having the best single season of any Sixers point guard of all time, Rob. All time.
Have you ever seen a point guard, either of you, have you ever seen a point guard in a Sixers uniform do this? Like, none of you are old enough for Mo Cheeks. So,
no.
I've never seen it. Andre Miller's the closest I've seen to it, and that's like a total disrespect.
Yeah, the closest you could maybe make an argument is Allen Iverson at point guard, but he's not. He's not a point guard.
Because he didn't distribute. So, like Andre Miller actually set the offense up, would get the distribute, but Iverson, no way.
Quick shout out to Andre Miller, because I actually love watching that dude play basketball. He was a change of pace kind of point guard, but I mean, you look at point guard. Yeah, man, he's fun. But James Harden, man, just the timing of his passes to Embiid out of the pick and roll have been perfect. You look at the chemistry with Embiid, it's without a doubt at an all-time high, and this is it, man. If they continue this success in the pick and roll and not do what Doc did last playoffs, which was just go all ISO basketball and just watch everybody die around the perimeter, you have a chance. You have a chance. And hopefully this kind of continues into the playoffs, because that pick and roll between Embiid, that pick and pop between Embiid and James Harden is everything. It's everything.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I feel like they have spent a lot of this season figuring out how James and Joel can maximize each other. And I think you've seen that recently, specifically. And on this road trip, they've really, come together on this road trip, I think. And James Harden has maybe even been better than ever. Think about this. When they made that trade, people were very leery. Yeah, Ben Simmons is basically a foot out of the league now. Okay. The Brooklyn Nets have totally blown their whole team up. And the Sixers are playing their best basketball in a long time right now. It's exciting. I think that they have learned from some of their errors of the past. I've liked, the last couple weeks, I've liked the athleticism coming off the bench, because for a while it was looking like same old Sixers bench. And you were like, oh my God, I'm dreading the minutes when the bench comes in. I'm not doing that right now. And yeah, selfishly, I really want Paul Reed to do well. And I want him to get a contract here, because I may or may not unofficially have the in to be his New Jersey realtor. So go Paul.
Go Paul.
Can I
Stuck
just
in the mud, or get off the mud, or what's the line?
get out of the mud? Can I also
mud.
add just like what James Harden's doing, playing like a ridiculous amount of minutes this year and still putting out at this level of production is just outstanding. It's for better or worse.
Pay the man.
I have to say, with this comment that was just made, I have to disagree a little bit. It's been better recently, but there were moments in this season where you saw that Joe, I like to call it the Joel mope on the court, where it's like he's walking up and down and, doing it. And it's like, listen, once again, this is one of those things I go back and forth with fans about. Joel Embiid is the best player we've had here, maybe ever. I'm not questioning that. I'm not saying trade Joel Embiid. I'm not saying blow Joel Embiid up. But it is okay to critique certain things about Joel Embiid from time to time. It's okay to do that and still call yourself a Sixers fan. Because I've had so many people tell me, oh, you're not a fan if you're – no. You're allowed to critique stars. There have been times this season and in past seasons where Joel Embiid has done things that has upset me. Look, I love Joel Embiid. Okay, there he is. He's on my wall, guys.
Oh, you got it on your wall. Now you're a real big fan now.
I love Joel Embiid. But, things here, there's been one constant through all the years here, and it's Joel Embiid. So it's okay to critique him. And it's okay to make certain comments about Joel Embiid and still love and idolize the guy, as I do.
Well, we're at the 42-minute mark. I think this is a great Combine and Sixers show. We'll be back next week, 6:15, Wednesday again, probably talking some free agency as well as more Sixers. You can also catch me and Dives tonight on Edge of Philly Sports, 8:30 p.m. He'll be on right at 8:33-ish. We'll be talking some more Combine, and we'll have some Philly Sixers flyers. Check me out there. You can check Rob out on Twitter at Rob. You had it up there before. What's it?
At Philly_Madness.
And then Dives at Mr. Crockpot. For Rob and Dives, I'm Freddie Burns. We will see you next week.